All right, good evening. Welcome once again to the Fighting Carrier. Today is Monday, June 1st, 2026. I can't believe it's already June right now. Pretty soon we'll be back to the cold months again, delivering mail in the rain and the cold, but it is what it is. That's the nature of the beast. So welcome. This is Deshaun Bradley. I am a Fighting Carrier in the Omaha area, Nebraska area, branch number 5. So please like, share, and follow. Trying to do this thing, try to grow it. And my show is a little bit different from other shows. Yes, it's true. I will talk postal issues as well, especially related to letter carriers and stuff. But I try to have an overall picture of the post office. I mean, I will talk about things that are in the news, things that may affect the post office itself, things that may affect us in general. So I tend to have a wide range of topics. And if you see the topic tonight, what is the theme of this topic again? The theme is relating to is the executive branch doing something that can maybe lead to privatization in the future. I mean, I know we hear talk all the time about the post office being privatized. It's been happening for the past 20, 30 years. They always say we're going to privatize it. So, but we also have to be on guard when these things do pop up and whatnot. And first and foremost, I'm going to say with this, I am completely, utterly politically neutral. I don't take sides politically. I don't vote at all. So this is not going against one way or the other. This is just me reporting the facts, reporting the news as I see and how it affects us as carriers in the future. Last night's show, if you missed it, you can go back and watch it on May 31st show. And on that show, I had the entire live stream of Mr. Renfro up there as he talked about different MOUs and JCAM changes to the contract. Some of it was excellent for the carrier that I thoroughly enjoyed. So go back and listen to that. There may be some things in there that you would certainly enjoy with that. So, with that said, again, this is Deshaun Bradley from the Fighting Carrier. Please continue to like, follow, and share. So I'm going to get started with this. There's been a lot of talk here lately over the years, past couple of years, especially with this new administration in office right now, concerning mail-in voting. This administration wants to make changes, which, anyone who pays attention to these things, again, I'm politically neutral, but I do keep informed of what's going on. And we've seen over the years how it happens each election cycle. We may be looking at the numbers throughout the night as they're popping up on our news feeds and whatnot, and we see one person has a huge lead, and then you wake up in the morning, that person lost. Why? Because there's like a midnight dump of ballots or whatever that comes. We've all seen that happen many times. And this administration certainly lived through it a few years ago, back when the first time was Trump versus Biden, and certainly experienced that. And so they're trying their best to modify, to change things, to make the mail-in process whatever, I guess, more fair or whatnot. It is what it is. They do what they want to do. That's how they go about it. But the question is the executive branch, Article 2, overstepping Article 1 powers? In other words, is Article 2, if they get away with what they're trying to do, will that in some way affect any other future plans? Will Article 2 powers, which is the executive branch, the president and his office, would they now be able to supersede Article 1 powers which is the legislative, which is the Congress and the House. Because right now, as postal employees, we are under Article 1 powers. Our bosses are 535 members of the House and 50 in the Senate. Those are our bosses. That's who we answer to. However, with this policy implemented by the executive branch, will that in the future supersede Article 1 powers? And so that's the question we honestly have to ask ourselves. Will that take place? Will that happen in the future? Or could it potentially happen? Possibly, it could. If it does, it is what it is. But it's good to prepare ourselves now for that potential to occur in the future. So, with that said, let's go ahead and go to this particular article here. Please excuse me as I load this up. Minimize that. And we will go right here to this article here under the Postal Times. If you can see it here on the screen. Let's see here. If I can get it here on the screen. Wait, after minimize that. Okay, I think we're there now. So we see here, Trump ordered limits on voting by mail, and the Postal Service is moving to make states comply. They're going to make states comply with this particular order here. Hopefully it's working now. It's like I froze up for a second. Let's try something here. Turn that back off. Turn it back on. Okay. Hopefully we're good to go now with that. Hard to say. It looks like I'm really frozen up on here. Matter of fact, I did freeze up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it looks like I did freeze up for a minute. Yep, I apologize about that. The little tech issues right there. I certainly did freeze up. But like I said, hopefully we're back. Hopefully we're good. But anyway, this article here from Postal Times says Trump ordered limits on voting by mail. The Postal Service is moving to make states comply. It begins here by saying that the U.S. Postal Service on Friday took its first major step to carry out President Donald Trump's executive order restricting voting by mail, proposing a rule that would require states to submit lists of voters before mailing ballots. But the proposed rule appears to smooth over some of the other rougher edges of the executive order, which has been condemned by Democratic state officials as an intrusion on their constitutional authority to administer elections. The proposed rule would apply uniform standards for the mailing of absentee ballots to and from voters, which the Postal Service understands will facilitate the faithful execution of federal law, the Postal Service said in a document posted on the Federal Register website. Now, I'm going to stop right there. This is what the Postal Service is saying right here. And of course, Steiner being recommended and appointed by this administration, he's going to go along with this. But since the proposed rule would apply uniform standards for the mailing, absentee ballots to and from voters, which, fair enough. That's fine. A good statement. However, and of course, being part of the federal government, they're going to comply. However, this statement is somewhat false because the executive has no authority over this. The executive cannot use an executive order to pass voting policy. They cannot do that. We're going to get into that, the reasons why. But Article 1 of the Constitution gives that to the Congress. The Congress is supposed to make these rule changes, make these law changes. So that's what is supposed to happen. And so, this statement by the Postal Service should not even been a statement. They should have just kept it quiet anyway. Shouldn't have said anything. But they made this statement on the Federal Register website, which I need to check that out. It was a good idea. I'm gonna look at that website later and see what's going on with that, because maybe I can contact some people in the federal government about post office changes and things that they should and should not be doing. But we'll continue with this article. It says the executive order faces at least 5 lawsuits. Experts on the Postal Service have also warned that Trump's attempt to assert authority over the agency threatens its decades-long record of independence. And that's the key right there. That's the key I want to get into. That's the real reason, in my opinion. Well, that's part of the reason. The one thing is the voting thing. I know he experienced some issues again, like I said before. But the real issue is they want to get their hands. These billionaires want to get their hands on the post office. They want to run it. They want to treat it as a business. And that's simply just not the case. Because again, the post office, we are not a business. We are a service. But yeah, these billionaires, they want to get their hands into it. They want to privatize it. They want to eliminate deliveries. They want to lay off workers. And thank goodness we are fighting right now with the union to have everyone who's been hired since May 23rd, 2026, that they're all covered under the no layoff clause, because we're being retroactive. We're preparing for these potential future things that's going to take place. So looking at this article, thinking about that, that's the kicker. So it's a twofold attack. One is attack on Article 1, as they oversee election laws, and 2, it's a backdoor way to try to privatize the post office. And these guys are always on the attack, because it was interesting. In the beginning of the administration, when the executive branch was firing people from all these federal governments, well, they couldn't touch us. They couldn't touch USPS because, again, we're not under Article 2. We're under Article 1. We're under the legislative branch. And because of that, our bosses are once again Congress. And any change with the post office has to go through Congress. The executive branch cannot do these things. They really cannot. Let me go back to that article here. Let's go back to this article. Okay. Now, for right now, the order remains in effect ahead of November midterm elections. A federal judge on Thursday declined to block it after finding the federal government had taken a few steps to implement it. Now, but that was on Thursday. But the rules happened on Friday, so no doubt these lawsuits are going to take place now. Just because of this. Let's go over here. Let's discuss federal election law. I don't know if you can see this or not. Now, here's what the federal election law can do. Federal election law, it sets a nationwide standard, but each state administers elections according to its own laws, as long as they comply with federal requirements. Now, here's the framework. The election clause in Article 1, remember? Article 1 is the legislative branch, the Congress, the House. This is not an Article 2 thing, the executive. This is Article 1. So Article 1, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution grants state legislators the authority to determine the times, places, and manner of federal elections, while giving Congress the power to alter or regulate these rules when necessary. This creates a dual system where states manage election administration, but federal law ensures uniform protections and standards across all states. So that's it in a nutshell. This is right here in the Constitution. What President Trump is proposing through an executive order is unconstitutional. And it's something that he should not be doing. whatsoever. Now, again, many of you support Trump. That's fine. I don't care. I don't care who you support. You can be GOP, MAGA, liberal, Democrat. I really don't care because I'm neither. So do what you want to do. If you want to support these people, that's fine. I don't support any politician. Never will. It's never going to happen. Because I just don't trust them anyway. So never going to happen. But what I am is I am pro obeying the laws of the land, laws that were written. I'm not for usurping the rules, usurping the laws, because it's like with us. And many of you, again, may support Trump, may support the executive order for mail-in order ballots, even if it violates the contract or even if it violates the Constitution. But let me ask you this question: if you are a carrier and management violates something in a J-CAM, how do you feel then? If management comes up with a policy on their own that does not comply with the J-CAM, think about it. If the USPS made an executive order for the carriers that doesn't comply with the J-CAM, how would you feel about that? See, we can't pick and choose what we're going to agree with. If you don't agree with management violating the J-CAM, violating the different rules that we have in place, if you don't agree with management using the scanners to question you about stationary events, if they didn't see you in person, the opposite of they had spying covert operations. If you don't agree with that, then how could you agree with what the executive branch is doing with an executive order? It's something to think about. I know, and because I'm neutral in political affairs, I can address both sides of this. Because it is what it is. I'm not pro or con anything. I'm just pro whatever law it is, and if that's the law, if Congress passes that law to do this, that's fine. But it's up to Congress. It's not up to the executive to implement an executive order. So I feel that this executive order with the mail-in voting thing, it's probably going to be overturned because it should be, because it violates constitutional law. Now you can't say. I know some are support the blue or whatever. You can't be pro law, but then have a person in office that violates the constitutional law. And that's the irony here. And that's another reason why I am completely politically neutral. So you will never get me to support any political candidate, any political party. That will never happen. But the thing about this entire process, as I mentioned before, again, this is just another backdoor attempt in order to take over the post office. It's a backdoor attempt because for some reason we are like one of the only, if not the only governmental entity out there in which the government wants us to make money. You can have the Department of War failed 9 audits in a row, losing billions and trillions of dollars, and yet they will happily write a check. Okay, you get more money. There you go. Here's $2 trillion to add to the military budget. Excuse me, to the military budget. Okay, but the post office loses less than that, and we need to privatize that. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to get rid of those workers off the floor. They got too many benefits. Let's take some stuff away from them. Oh, they got too many vacations. Let's take, it's always that way. They expect the Pentagon, the Department of War, they can just squander money. They can fail audits. No problem at all. But the post office, oh man, it's a catastrophe. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to run a lemonade stand. Because these people forget, first and foremost, we are a service. we are required to deliver to every single address in the United States, whether it makes money or loses money. That's what we're required to do. And so that's why I named this particular show the way I did, because I can see it. I can see the executive trying to find backdoor ways in which they can slowly privatize this. And think about it, if this is upheld in law, what's going to be the next executive order for the post office? What's going to be next? See, will they have an executive order to mandate 5-day delivery, 4-day delivery, 3-day delivery? I mean, it's fine. I mean, they want me to deliver 3 days a week. That's fine, but you better pay me as if I'm working 80 hours. You're not gonna cut my hours, and that's part of no layoff clause. That's what you're not gonna do. But that's coming next. Or what's another executive order they can do? They can say, well, you gotta work the holidays now. Executive order says you work these federal holidays. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there, but think about if this executive order goes through, then what other executive orders will they have? What else are they going to do to mandate? And so, really got to think about these things, whether you're pro or against. You got to understand that this is just another backdoor attempt for the federal government the executive branch to take over. So if you hear calls for the post office to join with the Commerce Department, well, that's under the executive. All right, we don't want to merge with other departments unless there are protections that, even if we are with these departments, we are still Article 1. Article 1 still is our boss, not Article 2. So even though we may merge with or cooperate with other departments, that the executive can't touch us. Again, we don't want that to be under one person, one administration. It's good and bad that we have 500 plus bosses with that. But we don't want to just have that power in the hands of a few, because there are some people who, well, think about it. These people who are against the post office, I just ask the question, can we see your portfolio? Can we see your stock investments? Where's your money going? Is your money in UPS? Is it in FedEx? Is it any of these other private companies? Where's your money at? What's your investments looking like? Okay, and so those who are pro FedEx, pro UPS, but against USPS, I'm always gonna ask that question. All right, well, let's see your stocks. Let's see your holdings. What you got? What you got there? And why is it that you want to get into the USPS? Do you want to break some of this USPS off to FedEx, to UPS? You want to split it up that way, just so those companies can boost their stock options up? Is that the plan? So I just have just very little faith in what the administration, or any administration for that matter, does. I just feel that this is just a backdoor attempt to privatize the post office. And they may agree or disagree with this assessment. This is my opinion. And this is something you really should think about and look at as well. So that's the one thing I want to talk about this evening. Let's see here. Is there anything else that I want to really discuss? Don't really know. Not really much to talk about today. There were some articles in the news I saw today. The last one, I did notice there was an article earlier today about a carrier who was stealing and was fired. Former carrier who stole and was fired, whatnot. Here's another one I saw in addition to talking about the election. Let's take a look at this one. Take a look at this one, please. This Connolly, named USPS Chief Solutions and Strategy Officer. This just happened here recently. It says Matt Connolly has been named the Postal Service Chief Solution and Strategy Officer, leading an organization that will maintain and expand service oversight and control by streamlining and enhancing network planning, decision-making, and execution. This organization was established under the prior Chief Performance Officer to ensure alignment across operations, sales, and marketing. Connolly has been in the transportation and supply chain industry for 40 years, including 32 at UPS. So here we got another one. Another person from UPS whose business model is completely different from our service model. They try to come in here and make these changes. It's interesting. These people whom they hire, they never ask us our input as the carriers. They never ask for our ideas or anything. So what is this? Don't be popping up right now. Yes, I know you're expired. I'll pay for you later. But that was unnecessary to pop right there. So this is something that's new going on. It's just all these changes here to oversight and things of that nature. And I just want to bring it to your attention. So this show tonight is a very brief show. It's a quick show because wasn't a whole lot going on today, and usually I had no idea what I'm going to talk about until I get here at the post until my show. So I just kind of look around at the news and whatnot, and I haven't had too many issues in my office, so there's hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. I haven't heard anything new, nothing that's happening in my office where it's egregious. I haven't heard of any new policies or anything. If there is anything new out there, let me know. But my office is pretty cool. They don't mess with me too much anymore because again I'm the fighting carrier, because they're not gonna talk to me in any kind of way, and I'm gonna do what I gotta do. So hopefully tomorrow when I'm back around 7 o'clock, the show can go for more than 30 minutes or so. Hopefully we can get back to a 45-minute to an hour show, depending on what happens tomorrow. But again, thank you for joining me this evening. Please like, share, and follow. This is once again the Fighting Carrier, NALC branch number 5 area. Again, please like, follow, and share. Follow us on Facebook. That's where I'm at. There, I'm not on X. For personal reasons, I'm not on X. I just don't like Elon. I just don't like him. So I try not to support anything Elon related. Yes, it may cost me some investments or whatever, but it's principles with that. So, all right, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow.